And I was close. I was that close. I thought I had every button pushed, but I didn't. Welcome to Wall Pass Wednesday here on Soccer's Morning Show. John, hear you there. Manny Cruz on the ones and twos, and we got stuff to talk about. It will be the magic of the Open Cup. We'll get into that because there was some magic last night. There was some crazy last night, and we'll get into that, and we'll preview the schedule today that once again will not include our friends at Georgia Lions SCFC. And if you missed that deep dive, and it's really only part of the story, you can go back to yesterday's show. I would recommend listening to it. A couple of our friends had actually earmarked those particular locations where it is. It started at about the 37-minute mark, went for about a half hour, 35 minutes. So we went into Georgia Lions FCFC and caught up kind of on their situation. There's a lot of other stories out there. Bit of a scheduling update. It looks like we will have the commissioner of NISA, John Pruch, joining us early next week. We are shooting for Tuesday, and what we may do is chase some ancillary guests. And if we can get Commissioner Pruch on Tuesday, then those guests will be in either before or after said segment, depending on when we are booked, because once again, we're dealing with the Central Time Zone. So if the commissioner wants 10 o'clock Eastern, he gets 10 o'clock Eastern. If he wants to be on early before he has to actually punch a clock and get to work, we'll find it out. But looks like Tuesday next week or early next week, Tuesday, Wednesday, somewhere in there, we're going to have the commissioner of NISA on, John Pruch, and we can discuss what's going on with Georgia Lions FCSC and figure out what the league stance is currently on this club and get into some of the I'm not going to say get into the weeds on it, but I wanted to get into the ideas of, okay, when a franchise knocks on your door and says, hey, we want to be a part of what's going on. There you go. We'll figure that out. So we're going to walk through the process of being a NISA franchise and find out what the league stance is when it comes to Georgia Lions FCSC next week. So like I said, looks like Tuesday. And traditionally, as you guys know, Tuesday is our day for news and deep dives and things like that and catching up on the stuff that we missed. Tuesday's wide open. I've already told the NISA office this yesterday when we had our first conversations. So the commissioner can be on as long as he wants. If he wants to go longer than 20 minutes, that's cool. But I wanted to walk through the process of what it takes to be a franchise in NISA and what the office in Chicago currently thinks about one of their members that is not doing well in apparently financials and day-to-day operations and in the court of public opinion. So early next week, we'll catch up with Commissioner Pruch, hoping it's going to be Tuesday. And like I said, he can have as much time as he wants when it comes to discussing whatever is on his mind. Opening kickoff. We'll get into it. And once again, once Tyler departs, Tyler Pilgrim from our buddy at Scarves and Spikes, he'll be on 9:15, and we'll break down everything in Tyler's mind on a Wall Pass Wednesday. We'll talk about the first team. We'll talk about the twos, and we'll talk about his thoughts on both. And we will we'll get into what Tyler has to think about all these kinds of things coming up in short order. But Open Cup last night had its batch of crazy. No real surprises that it would be crazy. Trust me, there was plenty of crazy. No surprise that it was crazy. So yesterday, everything started off early with a cup set. Miami United went to Chattanooga FC and got a 1-0 win. They scored in the 12th minute, got a 1-0 win. So Miami United advances. Chattanooga FC does not. Savannah Clovers beat our friends at the Villages, who are known as Brave SC now. Their third incarnation since they started out as a club. Clovers had 2 goals in the 29th at 45+2. They beat the Villages at the Villages 2-0. Forward Madison beat our buddy John Schuster and Duluth FC last night. That was 2-0 at Breeze Stevens. Forward Madison had a brace in the 9th and the 53rd. Craziest match of the night. And I mean, this was the craziest match of the night. Bar none, there was no substitute. Vermont Green out of USL League 2 and our friends at Lex SC. Vermont Green scores twice in the first 10 minutes to take a 2-0 lead at home at Virtue Field on the campus of the University of Vermont. They're up 2-0. Cano scores for Lex SC to make it 2-1 in the 20th. Labovitz scores in the 24th to make it 3-1 Vermont Green. That was the score at the break. Then Vermont Green scores again in the 50th to take a 4-1 lead. Then someone woke up Cameron Lancaster, and Lancaster scored in the 60th and the 78th, and it was fairly chaotic for the final 12-plus minutes. But Vermont Green in front of a stacked house at Virtue Field. I want to say it was 4,000 folks there. You could not find a seat. And good on Vermont Green. Vermont Green got the Duke 4-3. They advance. South Georgia Tormenta got a goal from Koto in the 5th minute. And they held on against FC America CFL Spurs. That's going to always take up a lot of space on a jersey. So South Georgia Tormenta advances 1-0. Maryland Bobcats won at Westchester United last night 2-0. Espinal scores once in the first half, once in the second. Northern Colorado Hailstorm played Tulsa Athletic at Hicks Park. And Hicks Park, for those of you that have not had the chance to see, is literally a park. In this particular instance, I mean, Tulsa Athletic has turned Hicks Park into a decided home field advantage. Did not work this time around, and they did not have the bouncy house behind one of the goals. As you picture the match in your mind's eye off to the right-hand side, they've had bouncy houses and kids' activities going on in deeper rounds in the past. But Tulsa Athletic, their deep run stops after one appearance this year, losing 4-1. One goal in the first half, Northern Colorado, then one in the 50th, the 65th, and the 65th, and the 85th, and they go on to win 4-1. Craziest one of the night was at our home for Los Verdos. Austin FC 2 and Foro SC. Austin was down 1-0, scored the 53rd minute and an own goal to tie it at 1. Foro got a red card in the 81st, so they had to deal with the final 10 minutes down a man. Got to 90, tied at 1. Austin FC 2 scores at the tail end of the first extra period. Foro scores at the death of deaths, like added time, stoppage time, extra time, 120 plus 3. Take it to pens, and Foro SC beat Los Verdos, Austin FC 2 at Palmer Field. So Foro SC goes on to advance. And then the late night match at Providence Park, and it was a friends and family appearance. El Farolito traveled to Portland, got the win 1. T2 had a goal in the 30th minute. Farolito scored twice in the second half. Harvey Neville, by the way, making an appearance for the second team that's attached to his father's club that he currently coaches. Harvey Neville got a red in the 53rd, so T2 had to go the final 37 minutes plus down a man. You wonder what that conversation was like at home as Harvey Neville gets a red. Sorry, Dad. Those kinds of conversations. Tyler's had his cup of coffee, or he's had a sip from his cup of coffee. And we will ask, as always, what his particular mug of choice is. But as we filibuster to 9:15, that's the rundown of the Open Cup matches from yesterday. A lot of amateur clubs got wins. Tormenta survives; they move on. A couple of other teams survive, but you had some amateur clubs move on yesterday. Do we continue the chaos today? We'll find out coming up in hour number 2. But since it is 9:15, and we've had opening kickoff. Man, I am out of sorts. This is what happens when you have to take a dog to the emergency room at 2:30 in the morning. That's your QR code from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Don't forget, Kickoff Coffee. Use the code Soccer Down Here 15. You get 15% off your purchase. They in turn take 10%. Reinvest it into youth games, youth initiatives from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. There you go. All right. Now we bring in Tyler.
What happened to your dog?
We don't know, but we think that the rowdy man might have been might have had an allergic reaction to this time of year, because we now have hit the equinox, and there are folks probably in forests dancing all around the planet, in flowing garbs and things. He was coughing up really bad last night, and there wasn't anything behind it. And it sounded like at a point, it sounded like there was something that needed to get out, and he was trying to cough it out. And that's the most diplomatic way I can say it. So the rowdy man was coughing up a storm, and the boss was like, yeah, we probably should take him just to make sure. And I'm thinking, okay, that's probably going to be an x-ray if there's something down there and anything from there. But as soon get this, and this will always happen, that the second you get to the 24-hour vet, the problem stops. And you're already in the door, and you've already told them what's going on. And so he's just wandering around the place. It's like, all right, bruh, time to get out of here. Ain't nothing wrong. I'm cool. I'm good. And
just had to get it out.
Yeah, just had to get it out. And so it's whatever it was. They think it's an allergy. There's, and I think that there's something at the boss's mom's place in like the carpet cleaners and things.
Oh, yeah.
When you have dogs that they decide that they're going to, rub their face on the floor just to make themselves feel better. I think it was probably there's a cleaner or a cleaning agent back at the boss's house in her hometown that is different than anything he deals with here. And so I think that there's a bath in his future with some oatmeal, and we'll see what happens there. But yeah, nothing like going to the 24-hour vet at 2:40 in the morning. So there will be yawning this morning, and it is not a personal affront to any of our guests or any of our conversations, but there will be yawning this morning. So what's the mug, sir?
Mario. In honor of hopefully stomping some Italians Saturday.
Oh, wow. He goes for irony. He goes for irony and meaning this morning. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So,
yes, no question about it. I mean, traditionally, it's just the big cup with the boss's campus attached to it in some manner, way, shape, or form.
Hey,
all the home games that we go to. Now that you've had a couple days to kind of sit on what happened on the weekend in honestly a game that you really needed to get full points because of the context of the situation coming up this weekend, what have been the lingering thoughts in your brain from Atlanta United over the weekend with the win over the purple team?
It wasn't pretty at all. Which is so funny. I feel so torn talking about this game every time I've talked about it, because you had your first clean sheet since I think August of last year. I think it was against Nashville, if I'm not mistaken. And you just didn't play pretty. You were just like a step off. There was like just a half second too late on taking shots. The possession wasn't pretty. The numbers weren't great. But you did the job, right? Like this is the type of game that you have to squeak out to separate yourself from the rest of the pack, right? Like there are days you're going to be the best team in the world, and there's days where you're just not going to play great football, but you got to figure out a way to win, and they did, and that's great. And I think Saba had a really, really good game. I think Saba, came in and because I thought he started off slow. I thought he started off preseason a little slow. I thought he started off the actual season a little slow. Not that he's been playing bad, but he just didn't seem like he was fully there. And then he comes out. Maybe he getting snubbed by Georgia pissed him off a little bit. I don't know, but he came out and showed what he's about.
The country, not the state.
Yes, not the state. He didn't get snubbed by us.
Yeah.
Don't get snubbed by the state of Georgia. But yeah, I mean, you got to win. That's what matters. Like you got to win. You got a clean sheet. There's still confidence. But I mean, Brad even said it in the locker room. Pineda even said it in the press conference. Like Brad was like, I don't know that we played better than we did against New England. And I think he's spot on with that. Like it wasn't that you played better. You did what had to be done. And Orlando didn't play that great either.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
That was amazing.
Hey, but I mean, look, we're always looking for drops on the morning show. You know that. I mean, we got the breaking news drop and it was easy when Saba came to town last year. That was one of the easiest ones to pull. I swear, that was one of the easiest ones to pull. And then there's this one traditionally where we sit, and I'm going to run through the hotkeys here with you just so you know what you have to deal with.
Okay.
We've got this to start things off every morning if we so choose.
Let me talk to you.
You got that, and then if folks are on a roll,
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Our buddy, the shoes of a champion, our buddy Sean Render, and then if you're perhaps in a situation where you're undermanned and you're waiting for somebody.
He's a third man.
Yeah. No, we'll get into this particular topic a little later on.
All the action at the fraction has been one way, unfortunately.
Thank you, Ross Davenport. See,
yeah.
Ross last season was listening to us, and so Ross hijacked that on a broadcast. And we like to thank our friends at the league that do those kinds of things, and want to bring those into the public consciousness, those kinds of things. Here's something for a true native.
Hey, ask for the roof, man.
Yes.
When Tyler does something well, we've anticipated that one. Traditionally, if you know how things go on the 280 character app. So we've got a bunch of hotkeys here.
I like it.
When the team plays, when the team has like the third goal from the matchup against New England. Yeah, so a little Atlanta Rhythm section, playing a little champagne football. So yeah, this is the kind of stuff that you've wandered into now that you're a part of the show, and I'll finish up with this one. When something goes right, and you don't want to sit there and you acknowledge that something went right, even though you want to acknowledge something went right.
I don't want to say I told you so. I don't want to blow our own horn, but toot, toot. We are still recipients and owners of all the trophies.
Yes.
That's a classic.
So the AA Art Anderson. So those are the hotkeys those are some of the hotkeys, I guess I should say. But obviously this week at the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta Training Ground, all the news is not good. We haven't gotten the official when it happened moment. We can assume and we can sit there and lay blame perhaps on a particular moment, and a particular individual might have happened before that. Don't know. But of course, any Atlanta United fan would like to sit there and blame Dalton McGuire for a particular cause and effect. Steon Gregerson out. That makes 7 coming up this weekend in Toronto.
Yeah, and it just sucks because as many starters as you had out already, you were feeling pretty decent about the defense because it's been good this year. Steon Gregerson's been a big part of that. And I thought he had a really, really good game this weekend. So yeah, I mean, it just sucks. Well, what can you do? The thing is that could have been an injury that was lingering. You never know. It could have been something that's just been there for a minute, but I don't think anybody, even him, I don't think anybody knows exactly when it happened. So, he gets done with the game, kind of feels something a little funny, and then they check him out, and the preliminary
in a bad way. Yes.
Yeah.
Feels something funny in a bad way.
Which is funny because you see him walking around after the match and he's, clapping, he's doing the lap and checking out the stadium and doing the whole thing, the parade. But apparently he just had a lingering feeling, and they checked it out, and they don't know the severity of it yet. Hopefully they'll put something out maybe early next week. But yeah, definitely missing Toronto, which sucks again because you just have so many people out already, and now you've got to deal with it. And now it's Noah Cobb season, and here we go.
Well, and this was part of the question that the Twitch pitch had this morning that I wanted to walk you through here. So I know we're still a couple days away from any kind of a starting 11 and stuff like that, but a lot of folks were gravitating toward what is the back line going to look like. And 3 of the 4 individuals that are there have consistent appearances either in Major League Soccer or with Atlanta United. You're going to have Brooks at the right. You're going to have Derek, I'm sure, in his position that he has earned. So then that means that you probably have Ronald in the discussion at some point. And it might be Noah Cobb's season. It might be Aiden McFadden on the left wing. And Dax McCarty, I would imagine, starts at your 6. And Dax ends up being that extra center back at times, especially defensively. And it might look like a 5 at the back, or with Dax drifting in, it's like, okay, that's your back 4 with a twist. And so, that lets either Brooks go forward or Aiden go forward. Dax drops in. That's your back 4. So the attack can do what it is. That was just my initial thoughts of what the back line might look like. Noah Cobb might make the trip. Efren Morales might make the trip. And that was my early thought pattern on that. How off am I in your mind?
No, I mean, I think that's pretty spot on. A 5 in the back makes sense in this one with the personnel, right? I think Ronald Hernandez is most definitely going to get that left back spot, I think.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you got Brooks on the right. I think Noah would be right there beside him. And then, of course, you have Derek. So, yeah, I mean, you've got, if he sticks to what he normally does, you keep your back 4. And like you said, Dax is going to be that guy who's maybe a little less optimistic about going forward in this one. And
he's like, y'all go ahead.
Yeah.
Y'all go ahead. I'm cool. You got it.
Yeah.
It's all you.
Like he said the other day, if the Red Sea parts and they give it to you, then, by all means take it. But I think he's going to be back there in Noah Cobb or Efrain Morales, whoever's ear.
Yeah.
It's going to be tough. And I think you just have to kind of settle and be a little pragmatic in this one and think we'll probably not see tons and tons of attacking opportunities. It's an away game, first of all. And even with your best team on the pitch, you go away in MLS to a different country, and you're just typically going to look like a different team. And that's just the nature of this league. That's where we're at, guys, if you don't know that already. But this one, it's going to be interesting. And, in a way, I'm excited about it because I do think it's an opportunity. It really is for a lot of the younger guys and a lot of the quote unquote second string, which is that sounds more negative than I mean it.
Yeah.
I think it's a good opportunity, but yeah, I think you've got to be pragmatic. You got to settle in and absorb some pressure like you have been, and hope you can have Tiare, Silva, Saba just hit on the counter.
Madison Cruz on the 1s and 2s. What's on your mind?
Hey, I'm jumping in. What's up, everybody? Looking at, I guess, just everything going on, and I actually have to take a look back at who we're going to be missing this weekend against Toronto.
Okay, so let's see if we can piece it together here.
Okay.
Everybody.
Yeah, well, all right. So Gregerson because of injury, but the 6 that are out on international duty, it's Gigi, Tiago, Jay, Luis, Caleb on the U22s, and who am I missing?
Did you say you said Luis Abram?
Yeah, I said Abram. I said Abram. So it's Gigi,
Slish.
Yeah, Bart Slish. Thank you. So that's the 6th. That's the 6th for national duty that you add Gregerson in because of injury to make 7. So those are the ones that we're missing.
So I feel like at least with that, we're definitely going to see Firmino take a step up. I think most definitely Nick Firmino is going to be in that starting 11. Would it be possible at least to maybe see Javier Armas or Luke Brennan possibly get the chance to head up there? With the way Luke Brennan and Javier Armas played against Orlando City B last weekend, which what we saw, both of them are forces in the midfield. Holy crap. I mean, like the way they were running around the pitch the entire time, I mean, it's a testament to just how well they have been developed. Is it possible that we could see both of them maybe step up and maybe take the chance and travel with the team?
And or possibly a Matias Gajardo, considering the relationship that we've seen
Absolutely.
early on with Armas and Gajardo in the midfield.
Yeah, because you also have to think, I mean, Dax, I don't think he has a problem going 90, but it's also one of those where you weren't really hoping to have to use him for 90 on a fairly consistent basis. And yeah, I know
Right.
this will be his first start, but
Yeah.
you know, I do think having the youth, quote unquote youth in there to maybe bring the energy in the beginning and try to get you something, and then you maybe bring Dax in for the latter half. I know that's a little risky. Or the inverse is you start him and try to settle things in, and then you bring in somebody like Armas and maybe you make some switches to try to go steal a point or steal a goal and take all three. It's just there's a lot for Pineda to try to figure out on this one, and it's not a position I necessarily envy.
And, you know, when you break through all of these things, I know that we mentioned what it might look like in the midfield since Bart Sleesh is gone. That's why I figured you needed that experience, especially on the road, going up against the offense that we have seen somewhat. You know, it's like, hey, they've responded to John Herdman. We'll see what the expiration date is on that. But you figure Muyumba and Dax to give you experience in dealing with Insigne and Bernadeschi. And then there was the Thiago Almada question, was like, what do you do there? And that's where I was thinking Nicolas Firmino might fit into the mix, because Nick is that Swiss Army knife. It's like, Nick, I'm Nick. I might need you to take some minutes at left back. Okay, cool. Nick, I need you to be my point guard. I need you to sit there and facilitate up top. Cool. That's why I was leaning toward Nick in the midfield, and I think you're spot on with the attack up top. It's pretty much the same. It's going to be Shande, but Jamal in the middle, and then it's Saba. And then, you know, if you get Jamal tired, Nick might go to be your striker. Then once again, Saba runs around and gives you 38 miles on the odometer. You bring in Edwin Mosquera, maybe a little earlier, 60th minute, and give you 30 where he's running around, just not completely dropped into fifth gear the entire time. And Tyler Wolf on the left. So there are options here, but the jigsaw puzzle is going to be the difficult part. And I think that the matchup is going to be the back line of Atlanta United with the newly self-found offense for Toronto FC. If you're looking, you know, like we do the open for the big TV show, keys to the game, it's going to be the back line versus, you know, the scoring versus the defense, that kind of a thing when we're watching American football.
Well, you know, I think you were kind of hitting on another theory, hypothetical I had, which was Firmino. Obviously, I think that makes the most sense, especially if you're trying to keep as many things like for like as you can.
Yeah.
But you have Firmino, and then yeah, if Tiare, for whatever reason, can't do a full 90, just is running out of a little bit of steam, so you want some fresh legs, or at least semi-fresh legs, maybe you move Nick, yes, like you said up top, and then Saba drops over, or Shande drops over as the 10, and then you put in Mosquera or Wolf, depending on which side. And because ultimately your attack in this game is still going to come primarily from the wings, no matter how you look at it. You're not going to try to force it up the middle unless it's given to you for a variety of reasons, because you have so much of that spine missing. So you've got Brooks Lennon, who is still going to be able to do his thing, probably less so in this one, because I think Pineda is going to tell him, hey, just focus defensively, and if you have an opportunity, take it. But I think there's enough here, and there's enough of a mix of, I think, disciplines on this pitch and on this team that you can kind of play some little funny games, and maybe you confuse John Herdman. I'm not going to say anything else about John Herdman, but maybe you out chess him in this one.
Maddie, next question. Tyler Pilgrim, Scarves and Spikes.
Ooh. I think my other one kind of feeds in back again to the twos. You're going to have a lot of players stepping up from the twos, I'm pretty sure, moving up going into Toronto. And then you have Atlanta United 2 going up against Carolina Core on Sunday.
Yep.
How do you think that balance is going to fade out, or what are we going to see in how the teams are going to be structured because of what's going on this weekend?
You might have some youngins that might be forced to nap on a plane and get up early.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I think for the two's sake, it's nice because, yeah, you're going to have Carolina Core on very short rest. But ultimately, the first team is going to be what takes priority. We know this.
Mhm.
So Steve Cook may just have to go into this one knowing good and well that it's going to be 45 minutes at the most, the next day for some of these guys. But you've got plenty of other talent there that he may have to call up, do what he's got to do. I don't quite know the academy to the twos rules. I mean, the twos to the first team are always weird anyway.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, I think you're going to see a handful of twos players that are going to be on this first team. They're going to travel with the team, and I wouldn't be surprised to see quite a few of them get some amount of time in this one. And I don't think it's going to be so much about the minutes that they play as it is, like John said, they're just going to be tired. They're going to be traveling, back from Canada. So it's not the great situation for them, but it's an opportunity possibly for some of them to get some minutes with the first team.
And this might be a case where you might have more folks than just Javier Armas dealing with the butter and the coffee first thing on Sunday morning.
This might be the day for butter in the coffee.
Yeah, for the slow release of the caffeine. I mean, with the substitutes that were on the bench, I mean, it's probably you might be starting Matthew DeJaney. Alan Carlton would be getting a start. It won't affect you in net with John Berner. It'll affect your back line and figure out, what that's going to look like. It is going to be a jigsaw puzzle in the trickle down for both Steve Cook and, coming off of what Gonzalo Pineda does in Toronto. You fly home, you get a nap in, and then the guys that put in a couple of minutes, those might be the ones that give you the start, and you sit there and can you give me 45? Can you give me 60? And we'll figure it out from there.
Yep.
This is going to be this is Vulcan chess, literally, for Atlanta United this weekend. It is three-dimensional chess where Steve Cook has to practice as somewhat normal. Then he's going to be losing folks for the trip to Toronto for the first team. First team goes and plays up in Toronto. Then you're logging minutes and you're looking at minutes and you're trying to sit there and do the math. I can just see Steve right now. He's like, okay, so this, Steve's doing math, and then it's like, all right, so these guys drop out. I can get maybe 30 from these guys. This is going to be a test of the rules and the substitutions and all of the substitution bricks that you're allowed. It is going to be for Steve Cook as as an after effect of the first team. It's going to be interesting going up against Carolina Core. Since we're talking twos, what do you think about the match with OCB?
I think the second half was infinitely better. The first half was going back. I mean, we can talk about this with the first team as well, but the decision making was maybe not quite there. I mean, they started off well, right? Luke Brennan wins the penalty.
Mm-hmm.
Armas nets it. Like, you're off to a good start. And this seems to be what happens with Orlando City B all the time. Atlanta starts off well, and then something happens, and Orlando comes back and
Jack Lynn scores twice in 5 minutes coming off the bench.
Yep. So, I mean, I really liked what I saw out of the subs, the 5 subs that were made in the second half. I thought they brought life. They absolutely annihilated Orlando's right side, off Atlanta's left.
They did.
It's a good foundation. It's a good starting spot. I think, any other universe, any other dimension, they probably would have came back and won that game, or at least drew it. And you got to think, as many chances as they created in that final 30 minutes, the other goal was coming, right? The other goal was just a matter of time, because Orlando seemed at that point like they didn't want to play football anymore. And so, it sucks, but it's not one to hang your head over. They have to improve, obviously, that final product, the finishing, but I'm not upset about it at all.
Maddie, what's on your mind with the twos and Tyler Pilgrim from Scarves and Spikes?
Well, I was in the process of putting a link in there, but I guess I could go ahead and say it's not too important, but it's kind of funny. ESPN top 10 just came out, and in top 5 is Miami United's goal against Chattanooga FC.
That is true.
Pretty cool. Pretty cool
It
stuff.
upsets me. I love Chattanooga, man. I'm so upset that they lost.
Yeah.
That they gave up a goal in the 12th minute and could not respond in kind or exceed what Miami United did last night. How locked into the magic of the Open Cup were you locked in last night, or were you actually spending family time on the midweek?
In the beginning, family time and everything else, but I'm a sicko when it comes to the Open Cup. I love the Open Cup. I love especially the early parts of the Open Cup. And it, to me, legitimately, it is one of my favorite soccer seasons of the year. I just love the games. I love the atmospheres. I love the fact that it's, almost like high school sports in some ways. Like, yes, you're not going to draw the crowds. We get into that argument all day. I don't care. I think it's great because the people that do show up, they want to be there. They're having fun, and it's a great time. So, I saw a little bit of that Chattanooga game. Saw a little bit of the Vermont cluster that happened. But the ones I watched, that was wild. It was wild. And but good for Vermont though. That was awesome. First Open Cup game up there. That's really cool. MLS Next Pro going 0-3 last night in all of the matches that they played in. And then one of the ones I watched was the Austin game.
Los Verdos losing in the PKs.
Yep. And that one, because they started that game off and did not look good at all, and then grew into it. But of course, being the Georgia guy, I had to watch the Tormenta game, and that one was way, way closer than I expected it to be.
Yeah, no doubt.
And,
Tormenta ends up with a 1-0 win in that one. They score early. And there was a chance late for the Alphabet Soup that made the trip to Statesboro to take them on. And like I said, we went into this deep yesterday, but no Georgia Lions FCSC and Apotheos today out at Silverbacks Park. Second time ever in the history of the tournament that you had somebody forfeit.
Yeah, I was supposed to be there covering it for the Cup.us. And obviously that's not happening now, but it sucks. Anytime that you have a team that can't field players and doesn't know who its owner is and whatever else is going on, I mean, it's just a crappy situation because it makes a lot of things look bad, and I hate it for Apotheos as well, because this was their chance, right? They were hosting their first round, and cool, they get to move on, but you still wanted to see them go play. You still wanted to see that opportunity, magic of the cup and all that good stuff. But yeah, the Georgia Lions that's unfortunately kind of a disgrace to any kind of ownership name right now. It's just a really embarrassing situation, and I hate it for everybody involved that wasn't parts of the decision-making process with that whole club.
Yeah, and as we mentioned early this morning, we'll catch up with. It looks like we're catching up with the Commissioner Pruch of NISA Tuesday, and so we're gonna get the NISA lowdown on Georgia Lions, SEFC, and everything else that's going on there with NISA to update that particular story. What else is going on in your part of the world that folks need to know about? Hit me with the blatant promo, if you would, sir.
Yes. So scarvesandspikes.com. Tonight we've got our live show giving away a scarf. I'll point it out. You have one hanging up right next to you, John.
I was going to say, wait, which one?
Sorry, yeah, not one of the 800 behind you. The new resurgence scarf.
I needed to be a little more. Oh, this. Okay, got it. So you've got that one, I've got this.
Oh yeah, that's a different one. Okay, my bad.
Yeah,
that's not the one we're giving away.
yeah. So it's they came out with two that are a part of the gorgeous Resurgence kit. So they came out with multiple Resurgence based scarves. I picked up one. You got the other, and you're giving away the other one tonight. You're not giving away mine.
No, not giving away yours. No.
Do Do we know what are you going to give folks a bit of a tease as to what they need to do to get said Resurgence-based scarf? Is it a trivia question? Are they having to watch? Are they having to pay attention to something during the show? What's the parameters?
Basically, no. I want to do trivia so bad, but the logistics behind it on a live show can be really difficult.
True.
I've thought about it, but no. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all of our social media, Scarves in Spikes on Twitter, Scarves and Spikes everywhere else. Just go look at the pinned tweet or pinned post, and it's got the instructions on there. Just got to go subscribe to the YouTube and share the post or the tweet.
Okay.
So,
All
pretty
right.
easy instructions.
Okay. So definitely, pay attention to these kinds of things because they will be live tonight. We will be at Villa Rica High School tonight for Midtown and Villa Rica. So when it comes to their show tonight, and other places too, but that's where it is. But no, as always, Tyler, it's great to hang out with you and have you drop by every Wednesday, put up with all of our shenanigans here on the morning show.
I love shenanigans.
Sift through the shenanigans and actually talk about stuff that has journalistic import, detail, and advances the story. As you know, you can crash anytime outside of 9:15 on Wednesdays and come in and ask questions. But please, if you would, sir, let everybody else see the coffee mug once again that you'll be taking a sip from as you leave us, and the symbolism therein as Atlanta United will try and stop the offensive output from Italian individuals, Insigne and Bernadeschi, at ATL Pilgrim himself on the Twitters and all of that kind of stuff. It was cool to have you up at the Fraction to share and break bread and look at everything there with the twos. And obviously, we'll be keeping an eye on stuff in Toronto on Saturday. As always, my friend, thanks for dropping by. We'll catch up soon.
Thank y'all so much.
There it is. That's Tyler. Tyler's actually going to now run away in the other direction at a very high rate of speed now that he has survived another week and another segment with us. Scarves in Spikes, the letter N. Scarves, the letter N. And I think it's a capital N, by the way. It's a Scarves N Spikes. You can follow them, do all of that stuff there. Tyler is at ATL Pilgrim because he was born here and he was raised here. And so now he's working here. So that's where that goes. Maddie, what else is on your mind? Since you weren't here yesterday, you've got about a day and 45 minutes to recap before Dylan Butler joins us at 10 o'clock.
Ooh, nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, first of all, I just entered my name in to get the scarf for Scarves and Spikes. So, Tyler, listen, work your magic.
There you go.
Please. No, I'm just kidding. If that doesn't happen, I was already planning on buying a Resurgence scarf anyway. So it was just of when my my finances get in order. Because I am, as most of you know, a broke college student.
There you go. Been there. I've been a broke adult, so I mean that you're right there. It's
listen, hey, it is what it is. But I mean, fun stuff. Went and helped out with KSU's first ever coaches show. It was Owl Nation Live. We interviewed our football coach, some of the players, our baseball team head coach, some of their players, as well as our track and field, as they just won the men's and women's ASUN championship. So that's always fun. We got to do that, helped to be a part of that one. That was a lot of fun. And other than that, just kind of worked on a couple things on my end and finally bought my cap and gown for graduation.
Whoa. So,
I know. Crazy.
Is it one of those standard polyester, oh my God, this fabric is going to make me like lose 47 pounds since I'll be outside at a graduation ceremony kind of a thing? Or is it like...
Thank goodness our graduation is inside. It's in the convo.
Okay.
So it's inside. It's air conditioned. Thank God.
Okay.
But I think it has like the KSU like emblem on like one side and all that stuff. And all that great stuff, which is actually funny. After this, before we go to Villa Rica, I have to go and pick up my tassel.
Well.
Because I will be graduating as a summa cum laude.
Well, I mean, damn. Summa cum laude.
Yep.
Maddie Cruz on the ones and twos.
Thank you.
I just graduated. That's all it was with me. It's like, make it stop. I'm done. I'm out. And so, no, I did not graduate summa cum laude from my university. I graduated so I could get out of the university and get into the workforce. Summa cum laude, man. So that's like what, top 1%? What's
It's how they do it at KSU. It's by a GPA. So the GPA is if you're that, it's a 3.9 to a 4.0, and I have a 3.95. So pretty much 4.0.
So what instructor are you cursing the lightning on for giving you your lone B in your time?
Oh, it's definitely psychology. Hated that class. Yeah, definitely psychology. That's what it was.
Yes. And so far smarter than the rest of us. David reminds us that I know that me, meaning me, I like to say that Maddie Cruz is on the 1s and 2s for a show note. Maybe let's just say today the show is on cruise control.
That's funny.
The show, David, is always on cruise control. That's easy. That's easy. It is. It's always on cruise control. That's an easy one. Because if she wasn't here and the show wasn't on cruise control, we'd be more off the rails than normal.
Yep.
So, there you go.
Absolutely.
Yeah. In discussing everything that we did yesterday with Georgia Lions SCFC, David says, I think we should be better than the FA Cup, and now we have our own version of Reading. Yeah, and I mean, it's an owner. Well, and comparing Reading to Georgia Lions SCFC, Dai Yong actually doesn't want to invest. We know who the owner is, and the team exists, and he's trying to sell off assets to try to make ends meet, to try to make paydays. With Georgia Lions and Mr. Veerhout and Ms. Patel, we don't even know what bills are being paid. We don't know where they're playing. We don't know if they're playing. We don't know if they have players. We don't know if they have coaches. We don't know if they've filled the proper paperwork out. This is more three-dimensional than Reading. And that's why, we are trying to have as much detail on this story as we possibly can and try to work the story forward, because you have a league that's impacted. You have a community that is impacted in more than one manner, financially, physically, athletically, and you're trying to get to the bottom of all of this and figure out, okay, so-and-so said this has not happened. What's the fallout? We're seeing the fallout, and now what's the repercussion? And that's what we're getting into when it comes to Georgia Lions SCFC. It's three-dimensional. It is a three-dimensional issue that we are definitely continuing to keep an eye on because of everyone that is being impacted by this particular story.
Yeah, and it sucks too, because you wanted to see a matchup like that. It sucks that they had to forfeit and everything, because it would have been a really fun match at a Silverback Stadium.
Mm-hmm.
It would have been a great time, and so it sucks, but you don't want to throw a team into something when it's not fully ready to go yet. And there's a lot of moving pieces that still need to be done, and yeah, it's just us figuring out what is going on and all that stuff.
Yeah. So trying to figure out what in the wide world of sports is going on with this particular tournament. Believe it or not, for the 8 matches tonight in Open Cup, we actually do have juice boxes. This is stunning to me. It's great because it gives us more stuff to talk about, but we actually have juice boxes for the matchups. We'll go over who's playing what tonight, but obviously we'll get into juice boxes and details in just a little bit. But just to give you an idea of what's going on tonight, 6:30 City Stadium in Richmond, traditional start time for them. Our buddies from Christos. So let me see if I can find the Christos scarf. The Christos scarf is behind. Yeah, the Christos scarf is behind the Atlanta Auburn scarf. So our friends at Christos are right there. They're right there in the scarf purview. They're playing tonight. Our friends from Christos, they're playing at Richmond. That's at 6:30. A club called AS Frenzy with an I is playing in Daytona Beach against Club de Leon at 7 o'clock. Maddie's new friends at One Knox are on the road at Asheville City at Greenwood Field in Asheville, North Carolina, while the downtown stadium is being renovated. South Carolina United Bantams from USL League 2 are playing Greenville Triumph in Columbia. That's at 7 o'clock. 7:30, Red Bulls 2 are playing at Montclair against the Hudson Valley Hammers. Chicago Fire 2 is playing Chicago City SC at SeatGeek in Bridgeview. So you might have the same number of folks that watched the Portland Timbers match last night watching Chicago Fire FC2, Fire 2 playing Chicago City. Not to be confused with Chicago House AC. They host Loons 2 in Elmhurst, Illinois. That's at 8 o'clock. 10 o'clock, FC Folsom, and there's a Johnny Cash joke in there somewhere, playing Central Valley Fuego. They're at 10 o'clock. 10:30, Ballard FC, your reigning USL League 2 champs, are hosting Spokane Velocity, who got their first win in USL League 1 on the weekend. That's at 10:30 at the UW Medicine pitch at Memorial Stadium. So it looks like that's on the campus of UW. 10:30, Capo FC, another one of your NISA entrants, is taking on Des Moines Menace in San Juan Capistrano at J. Sarah Field, I'm guessing on the campus of J. Sarah High School. And then Irvine Zeta, your other member of NISA that is playing tonight. They are playing at Championship Soccer Stadium in Irvine, California, your home for Orange County SC as well. They're playing Mesoamerica FC. LA Force out of NISA is at Long Beach Community College, and they would be in the direct path of planes landing at Lindbergh Field at Long Beach Airport. They're playing Redlands at 10:30, and Apotheos and Georgia Lions FCSC is canceled. So those are your matchups in Open Cup. We'll get into the juice boxes and all of that other stuff after Dylan Butler joins us in a couple of minutes. One story that has broken this morning, and it has to do with our friends at the Spanish Federation from the Associated Press. Spanish police have arrested at least 6 people and raided the offices of the Spanish Soccer Federation as part of a corruption and money laundering investigation that includes suspicions regarding the Federation's deal with Saudi Arabia to take the Spanish Super Cup to the Middle Eastern country. Spain's Guardia Civil said that they raided the Federation's offices near Madrid and a residence belonging to former Federation President Luis Rubiales. He's back in the news. In the southern city of Granada today, police said that Rubiales was not among the 6 arrested. The Office for Spain's state prosecutor said a total of 11 premises, homes, businesses, buildings, were raided for documents that expected the operation to conclude with 7 arrests. The identification of 5 more people is being under investigation. And we mentioned Rubiales stepping down in September, and we have followed his progress or lack thereof in the public sphere. Rubiales overhauled the format of the Spanish Super Cup in 2020, creating a 4-team mini-tournament, moving the competition to Saudi Arabia as part of a deal that was reportedly worth €40 million per the tournament for the Federation. Prosecutors opened a probe of that deal in 22 following leaked audio between Rubiales and Gerard Piqué regarding millions of dollars in commissions. So Spanish soccer officials had their domiciles, working elements, working places raided this morning in Spain. And so when obviously we know more about what's going on over there, we will let you know. But when the police raid your place, that's never good.
No, I would assume it wouldn't be good.
No, unless that you're really sitting there and you're like, I think you should raid my place. I think that would be fantastic. If you raided my place, I would be a happy individual.
They're like, you know what? Come on in.
Yes. But then it wouldn't necessarily be a raid at that point, but nevertheless, so the folks that were attached to some of the folks attached to the Spanish Federation, they got their business offices or their homes or someplace in between raided this morning, our time, afternoon, their time. So that is not necessarily a good thing. Let's see. We've got news on Miguel Almiron. And it was interesting to hear this, but once again, after what happened in the last window for transfers and such,
Danny Rust, who works for a couple of different places based in Essex, England, yesterday at Give Me Sport said that Newcastle United are open to selling Miguel Almiron if a suitable offer is tabled in the summer. Remember, Al-Shabaab in the Saudi Pro reached a verbal agreement in the winter window in January, but Miggy was not interested in heading to Saudi Arabia. So Danny Rust, with some help from Ben Jacobs, Ben Jacobs interviewed for the piece. He says he's expecting Almiron to be the subject of widespread interest before the 24-25 season. And Darren Eales has admitted and conceded that Eddie Howe may have to be forced to offload a number of big-name folks because of, once again, profit and sustainability rules. Because, remember, you're only supposed to lose over a 3-year period $105 million. So, right now, Newcastle is in the neighborhood of the high 60s, low 70s. And that means that in a 2-year period, they can only lose as much as another 30 million pounds or so. And so that's why Newcastle is looking to sell Bruno Guimaraes. That is why Newcastle has been putting Miggy on the market. So Miggy will be on the market again, probably. But once again, Miggy was not interested in going to the league that we neither condone, endorse, nor promote. But there was a 30 million pound price tag that was right there hanging for Miggy. It's like here's your Miguel Almiron in the shop window. What's the price tag? Oh, 30 million. And one of the teams in the league that we neither condone or endorse nor promotes was like, yeah, sure, okay, cool. Yeah, we could do that. And Miggy was like, nope, not interested. Reports suggested that the Middle Eastern outfit held lengthy discussions after having an initial 17 million pound bid rejected. Once again, remember that it was 21 million pounds plus percentage. That was the price tag when Miggy left Atlanta United to go to Newcastle. So statistical averages a little lower in shots on target, XG, goals, and assists as of March the 19th. But keep an eye on Miggy leaving. Does he go to Saudi Arabia? Don't know. But once again, they were the first ones in the door to try to get Miggy to come over and play for one of their franchises, due to enter the final 2 years of a 60,000 pound per week contract in the summer. So keep an eye on Miguel Almiron when it comes to the possibilities for Miggy leaving. The bid had apparently at its peak had reached 26 million pounds. So we'll keep an eye on Miggy, see what happens with Miggy. Does he leave? Does he stay? Guimaraes out, Miggy out. Big name dudes probably chasing after a lot of folks there at Newcastle because of profit and sustainability rules. We'll keep an eye on that. But it looks like Miguel Almiron might be on his way out the door come the new transfer window. So we'll keep an eye on what's up with Miggy going forward. It is the top of the hour, and we are starting hour number 2. We still have a couple of things to discuss. Dylan Butler hanging out with us around the corner. We'll break down what Dylan thought over the last couple of weeks, really, when it came to Major League Soccer and who's hot, who's not. Hey, Minnesota United actually had their coach wandering the sidelines, the actual coach that they hired from Manchester United. He's actually on this side of the Atlantic. Second youngest head coach in the history of Major League Soccer, Yoann Damet, who was under 30 when he was picked up by FC Cincinnati, is still the youngest. But Eric Ramsey at 32 actually was wandering the sidelines for Minnesota United, and they're doing well. Nico Moreno. I know. Yeah, you're what?
I'm so proud. Good job, Minnesota. I'm glad they finally have a coach.
Yes, that is the key. They finally have a coach. You start with a coach. That's a good start. That's a good starting point. But they've done really well, and it was one of Nico Moreno's surprises that has happened early here in the Major League Soccer season. Because I'll be the first one to say it. Under the situation that they had in January, where they were trying to find a coach, where their chief soccer officer was still on the other side of the Atlantic, and they were on their second substitute teacher, they were my contender for Wooden Spoon. I will not. My hand in the air, my other hand in my heart. You'll remember I said Minnesota United Wooden Spoon, but so far they're not acting that way.
No, I mean, like, if you were to tell me right now that, like, they would actually be a solid team, like, as of everything that has happened, I would have told you you're crazy. But, listen, I mean, they had all these woes kind of coming into the season, and that they're finally having a coach that has everything under control. It's good. I'm interested to see if they're going to be able to keep it up for the rest of the season. That'll
Yes.
be the interesting part.
Yes, that is the key. It's like, all right, so and the thing about Eric Ramsey is that he has maintained that two of his tenets, two of his tent poles when it comes to his organizational thought are youth and speed. And there are parts of Minnesota United that are doing a lot of the scoring right now that are neither. See Pookie, Timu. So how does he adjust with his own thought processes and get everything laid out so Minnesota United could continue to be successful? Yes, you're having Longwane score for you. Yes, you have Reynoso, who we thought wasn't going to be a part of the discussion. But Timu Puki's getting the scoring done for you as well. And so it's all of these different elements that are attached that are un-Eric Ramsey-like. Now that Eric Ramsey has come to this side of the Atlantic, how do they mesh? And that's one of my questions going forward with what Eric Ramsey wants to do versus what Minnesota has been doing. How do both sides kind of meet in the middle? And what does that look like? Does it look like more what we saw this past weekend? Does it look something different? Does Eric Ramsey continue to build things forward and kind of turn things into his own ideas? Or right now, just because of these are the tools that you have in front of you, this is how we're going to make the sausage, and this is what the soup's going to look like this season in Minnesota. That it's going to be an interesting subplot now that Eric Ramsey is there at Allianz.
For sure.
All right, so I am trying to type and promote Dylan's upcoming appearance here in short order, because I thought you were gonna say some more things, but
I can elaborate more. I got you. Don't worry. I got you.
Okay. But
yeah,
no.
I mean, I think, yeah, I mean, it's interesting because, it was his first game coming into it. He obviously came out on a win, which is phenomenal. Very happy that they were able to do that, especially going up against a team. I'm going through my thing again, going up against LAFC.
Yep.
We're at home, it's good. I think it's great that they were able to do that. It's going to be interesting to see if that was where he wanted it to be, if that was what he had in mind, and if we're going to see kind of some changes in how the team's going to play. Playing style could be a big one. If we're going to see them play a different formation, if we're going to see them play more of a different mindset going into the rest of the season, how they're going to approach different games. I believe, forgive me if I'm wrong, is Minnesota on a bye week this week? I don't think so.
Let's find out. Let's see what Minnesota is up to this week when it comes to.
They are on a bye week.
Oh, so they get the week off. So they get a week to learn about Eric Ramsey.
They get a week to learn, which honestly, that comes, I think, at a perfect time for them. I think this is perfect for them. They just are coming off a win, and then they get to have this bye week where they actually get to learn from their coach. I know that they're eager to play, and it'll be interesting. We had the same talk with Atlanta, kind of like if there's going to be a shift. Mm-hmm. I think it's going to be good for them to get to know who it is. But then, they're coming in next Saturday, March 30th. They have to face off against Philadelphia at Philadelphia. That's not going to be an easy task. So
no.
It's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out.
Yeah, and you mentioned LAFC, and one of the stories that popped up yesterday is, and I think this was started by Tom Bogert, and it appears that the Olivier Giroud sweepstakes might be settled even before we have the discussions about, hey, Olivier Giroud might be interested in coming to Major League Soccer. But it appears that perhaps, possibly, maybe, that you might end up with Olivier Giroud at LAFC. LAFC, after the contract is up this season, you might have Olivier Giroud coming to be the next big money pickup for LAFC. Tom Bogert and David Ornstein combining in this one. It's referred to as advanced talks. France's all-time leading scorer, potential summer deal when his contract with AC Milan expires. So, Olivier Giroud might be the Gareth Bale of the 2024 season for LAFC. No agreement is imminent as Giroud considers his options, according to Bogert and Ornstein. So I guess it's Bornstein. So this was probably a little before your time, but in the movie All the President's Men, Bob Bradley, instead of yelling out for Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein individually, he called them Woodstein. When he wanted both of them in his office, the Jason Robards character yelled at Robert Redford and Dustin Hoffman, and he wanted them both, and he'd go, Woodstein! And so then they would both know that they were in trouble and needed to be visiting Jason Robards' character behind the glass door. So maybe this is Bornstein when it comes to American soccer writers. Bornstein says, no agreement imminent. Giroud considers his options ahead of the summer. He could stay at Milan, go elsewhere in Europe, or head to the Middle East if he doesn't reach an agreement with LAFC. LAFC has his discovery rights, which means they have the priority to sign him ahead of any MLS club, showing their seriousness in these talks. Giroud would join Hugo Lloris, his longtime teammate with Les Bleus, joining this year. He would be part of an attack with Christian Oliveira, Denny Bouanga, all of that. So now that Dylan Butler está aquí, we bring him back for the first time in a while. Dylan Butler, welcome back, sir.
Thank you. Glad to be back.
We were discussing, and I was explaining to Maddie the idea of Tom Bogert and David Ornstein. And they broke the story, or they broke the, however you want to phrase it. They put the story out there about the possibility of Olivier Giroud being this year's Gareth Bale and being a part of LAFC. And I said, because of the dual byline, it reminded me of All the President's Men when Jason Robards yelled at Robert Redford and Dustin Hoffman and called them Woodstein. Do we call Tom Bogert and David Ornstein Bornstein when it comes to this particular story?
But then you might get confused with Jonathan Bornstein, right?
Well, true.
So you'll think, all of a sudden he got into journalism now, and
that's true. That is absolutely true. So it appears, as we were, talking about things, that's the official term, that Olivier Giroud is considering joining Hugo Lloris and being a part of LAFC. They do kind of need some scoring help, but isn't Olivier Giroud like 704 years old?
Yeah. Give or take. Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe so. But listen, LAFC, they've done a good job. Even Bale, right? Like we were like, what is Bale going to do? And he essentially won them an MLS Cup, right? So, yeah, listen, LAFC is gonna LAFC, right? And if you are a player of a certain ilk, I would imagine Los Angeles, Miami, these are nice destinations for you to continue your footballing career, right? So
yes, and I would. And from our resident soccer overtherian, Nick Alifi, Nick basically says for Italians and for those that are attached to the Italian league, really there are only 3 cities in the United States: New York, LA, and Miami. And so for Giroud to go from, Serie A to Los Angeles, it would fit. And this would be one of those. This would be one of those John Thorrington, LAFC-ish kind of moves where you rent a player, whether it's Bale or Chiellini or whomever, you bring him in. It's like, bruh, look, you can go to Sunset Boulevard and do whatever you want. Just show up here on game days. We might play you a little bit. Let us know how you're feeling. Just help us win matches. This seems like this situation version 2.0.
Training is at 10 a.m. each morning. If you like, that'd be great.
Yes.
Absolutely. Your locker will be there. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like, we'll be there. If you want to come and hang out, that'd be great. Maybe make the rounds a little bit and see what's going on as he breaks out his New York Rangers mug this morning. This is the breaking out the Rangers mug as we're now in the stretch run, making sure that folks are getting in their positions for the Stanley Cup playoffs. And we know that we'll be talking Stanley Cup playoffs when we get into the playoffs. Last couple of weeks in Major League Soccer, when it comes to
has anything happened the last couple of weeks? Been kind of quiet.
We've been looking at Messi and friends. We've been looking at things that surprise us. When it comes to the headlines of the last couple of weeks, what has surprised you still about through match week 4/5?
Well, I mean, individual moment, the most surprising thing had to have been Kellen Acosta's goal, right?
Yes.
And by the way, like I was on another program on Sirius XM, and I
what?
And I and I said, and I use this analogy, but I think you would especially get this. So that goal, right? Like we follow Major League Soccer. So like maybe we're watching the match live, we see the replays, like we kind of know its legitimacy, right? But that's one of those moments on social media, like if it's like the Turkish second division and we're watching a highlight, the comments after it are like, oh, no way, totally fake. And yet it happens.
And yet you had Callum Williams say this.
Here comes Chicago one more time. Acosta forward. And it's an awkward moment. Oh my word! Chicago Fire have won it. The Windy City plays its part in a vital Chicago.
Yeah. Callum was on one there. I give Callum full credit for.
Yeah, you wonder, and we're in the broadcasting realm. Like, what would the call have been? Windy City, perfect. You go with Windy City, obviously. Divine intervention, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, well, for me, it probably would have been something golf related because that was one of the nastiest. Let's see. So for me, it would have been a power fade. So for Kellen Acosta, it was a draw. So, a draw turns into a win for Chicago Fire at Soldier Field. Something like that. When it comes to a moment like that, when was the last wacky moment that stuck with you in a moment like that where it looked like Sirwa almost had it? It looked like it was up there, and then you're trying to call for a fair catch, and then it actually goes through his hands, and you don't see that until you see the replay up close.
It picked up velocity somehow.
Yeah.
Like it got faster.
I mean, downward dog actually picked up MPH on him, and so Sirwa was there, and it goes through his hands and into the back of the net.
He played it really, from a goalkeeping perspective, he actually played it well.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he wasn't, because the last thing you'd want, you never want a ball to bounce in the box, right?
Oh.
So he made sure of that. Like he was prepared for that, and then it just kept going. Amazing.
5 matches played.
But I will say, sorry, John, I will say this: despite all the wackiness and craziness of this, and it did take something wacky like that to get them this win. This is the exact result that's gone against the Fire. How many years now, right? So, good for them to get this result. However, they got it. An important one, I think, as you're trying to change the culture, right? So, I don't know how many points from a winning position they gave up last year, but I feel like it was a million.
Yes.
And I don't know if they get this detailed into these. I'm sure soccer nerds do, but of those, like how many of those points were dropped after 90 minutes or after 85 minutes? Because it feels like almost all of them for the Fire were, right?
Yeah.
So in that sense, maybe that's what they need to start their push up.
And it's very, 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 very intriguing when it comes to Chicago. Greatest hits over the last handful of match days. Messi and friends, no real surprise. Top of the Eastern Conference, 5 matches in, 10 points ahead of folks, and they're now having to do it because who knew when you have players who are north of 30 and north of 35 in some instances, the body doesn't respond the way that you had it respond to you 10 years earlier.
You know what I'll say too? What I thought was cool in this latest win for them, obviously Messi didn't play. Suarez comes up the bench and does Suarez things, but Tata, and I don't think he's ever shied away from this, right? He played the kids, right? And I feel like in that environment, and maybe this, I don't know if this is said enough. Like, we all know what Messi, Busquets, all those guys, what they do on the field, right? But I think, and I saw it a little bit with NYCFC in the early days with Pirlo and Villa and those guys and Lampard, like what they do in the locker room, on the training facility with younger kids, like, is massive, right? It's just like, this is how you're a professional. This is how you have to act. This is how we go through training, and it's just that winning kind of aura goes throughout the room, right? So I feel like now you've got young kids who are trying to prove themselves, but also there's this culture brought in from the Barca guys on how to do things, how to win, and I think that's, you know, extremely valuable for these guys. So they proved on a, you know, in this situation without Messi, and there'll be plenty of occasions where they'll be without any of those 4, right?
Yeah.
That they can get points, that they can get wins. I feel like that was a really important statement that they made on Saturday.
Yep, the Gulfstream Galacticos not doing poorly so far without having Messi as a part of their lineup. To answer our question about the Fire last season, 18 matches, they had a lead, and they only won 10 of them. So they ended up with 36 total points in 18 matches where they had a lead last season. That puts them 24th out of 29 in Major League Soccer when it comes to trying to get some kind of a result, hang on to a lead, get maximum points. So that, as we say, ain't good. Also on the board, not a surprise, Columbus at the top of the ladder as well. One last match played. Columbus is shocking no one. They're the ish right now in the Eastern Conference, and they've got to be like top 1, 2, or 3 teams on everybody's list in Major League Soccer.
Yeah, and what I'll say about them too is, look, how many every team, it feels like, is dealing with either a CCC hangover or just the struggles that always comes with playing multiple competitions early in a season. And the crew are like, what are you talking about? Like, we're good. We're good, dude. Like, we can do it. You know, like New England are getting results in CCC, not in the league. Obviously, we saw what happened with Orlando and Cincinnati, even, right? The Shield, like, Columbus is bucking that trend in a big way. So they're still, to me, that you know, despite all of the slaps in the face, if you will, that Liga MX teams gave to MLS teams in this past round, you know, they're still that team. I think you're like, you know what, these guys can maybe do something here.
Philadelphia, Orlando, New England, all in the CONCACAF Hemispheric Extravaganza, all at the bottom of the standings in the East.
Yeah.
No wins, 7 losses, 4 draws. Philly has 3 of those draws. Orlando is the only other team with a point so far. Orlando -8 in goal difference. They've given up 10, only scored 2. And New England has scored 3 and given up 10.
Yeah, no bueno. I'll say this too, and I know there are resident Philly fans who are part of the program on the regular.
Yes.
Now I'm with you, because now I'm like, you run it back with the same crew, and not looking very good right now, right?
Mhm.
Like, so yes, they've drawn. Yes, hey, they haven't lost. Great, sure, but to be non-competitive,
Mhm.
that's a red flag right there.
Mhm.
So
Yes.
there's for me reason to be concerned with Philly because they made such a point of making sure, hey, we're keeping this group together, but for what now,
Mhm.
right? So that's
Yeah.
a concern.
Dylan Butler, MLSsoccer.com, hanging out with us as he always does when he's not the busiest man in soccer media in the Northeastern United States. Team directly above those three is the one that is building and moving into Dylan Butler Estates eventually. New York City Football Club, 4 matches, 1 win, 3 points. Your thoughts on Nick Cushing right now, considering how they started the season and now they've got points on the board and they're not currently wooden spoon in the Eastern Conference?
Yeah, I mean, I my thoughts change a little bit on that result.
Yeah.
I felt like the seat was getting pretty warm for Nick Cushing. Not that it's completely cooled off at this point, right? But I think an important result for them, especially to rally the way they did. I'll say this: even at halftime, like I don't know how close you were watching this, right? But there's a little bit of a dust up, if you will, as they're walking to the clubhouses, if you will, in the Bronx, as they're getting to the dugout on the third base side. And part of that is Cushing, and I think Tom Bogart had it on his Twitter, had a video of it. Cushing, I think, was in a verbal argument with Insigne, and then another Toronto player comes in and gives him a little bit of a push. Your manager got pushed, and not one player, it seems. I mean, they did go to break pretty quickly, but it didn't look like any player then like jumped in and was like, "Hey, dude, this is our manager." So just that was a cause for concern for me. But then NYCFC rallies in the second half. They play well. An insane pass to lead to O'Toole's winning goal. There's young players on this squad, right? There's not the and there's always been young players. The difference, I think, now from NYCFC as to NYCFC in the past is you don't have like that Maxi Morales. You don't have that maybe veteran player to lead this group or a group of veteran players, right? Like you had, look at that championship team. You had Alex Callens in the back. You had Sean Johnson, peak Sean Johnson in goal, Maxi Morales in the midfield, right? Like you had veterans throughout the fields. Not so much the case here, right? So you've got younger veterans, right? You've got James Sands and Keaton Parks, and they're the guys who have to lead the way. So it's a different leadership component to a team that still has very talented young players.
You mentioned Toronto, so I'll go ahead and go there. I know that we had kind of made a point to ish all over John Herdman, and I still reserve the right to do that. But early returns are that you have individuals who seem to be happy with what's going on. It's amazing what happens when you win. And then you're right now through your first 4 matches, you're in 5th place. I mean, you're tied in that gaggle with your friends from the French-speaking province and with Red Bulls. But early returns from Toronto are somewhat, you're like, okay, I get this. So what do you think about Toronto so far? I still think they're going to come crashing down. I just think that it's a honeymoon period.
Yeah, I'm a little bit with you there too. I don't think the I think the big question with Herdman is can the Herdman way, this
The Herdman way.
this rah, impassioned speech, no one believes in us guys, like it worked well on the national team side because you got a group of guys together for like a week, 10 days at a time. You go and play your matches and now they go off to their club teams, right? So and obviously you already have guys who are emotional about playing for their country. So I felt like he perfectly fit that group. I don't know if you could do that. That's not sustainable for 10 months of an MLS season, right? Like you can't go to that well that often. I don't think, at least, and get results. So and this will be the challenge with him. We've known what he's been able to do on the national team level, and club level is a question mark. So I think the jury's still out. I'm with you there as well. It's the honeymoon period, but the big key there is again going to be the buy-in from the Italians, right? Like, are they going to bring it as you expect them to? They haven't until this early portion of the season. So they seem to be playing well. I still think there's plenty of holes on this team. I'm not all in on Toronto as I would be for like a Red Bull, for example. Even though I still think Red Bulls are like one player away. We've talked about that. That really good number 9 is what's missing for them. But yeah, no, I'm not. I'm with you on that on Toronto. I'm not buying that. That's one of those stocks that's like it's high right now, but there's going to be a roller coaster there.
So you're saying that Toronto is kind of crypto to you?
Yeah, stay away.
Speaking of stay away, the Loons finally have their new teacher.
Yeah.
Substitute teacher can be an assistant and do the things. I did not have, once again, Minnesota at the top of the Western Conference after 4 matches.
No.
And unbeaten.
And doing so without Reynoso, right? Like,
yes.
You tell me Reynoso's not there, I'm like, I figure they're maybe getting a draw maybe out of their first 4 matches. Like 0-3-1 or something.
Yeah. And so I'm like, okay, did not anticipate that. I mean, Minnesota and Vancouver and Portland, 1, 2, and 3 in the West. That was not what I had as a part of my bingo card after match week 4/5.
No, I'm with you there. Although Vancouver, man, like I'll say from last year, like I don't know if I got on their bandwagon. If I was close, I might have been on it. I might have got off it, but they were a team I thought that had some really interesting pieces last year. And obviously too, I think part of it was because I love Ryan Gall's play, and I felt like he was so criminally underrated. And he got some of that just due, I think, last year, finally, I think. But they're a good team. I didn't, as you said, have them top of the West. I had them probably battling for a playoff position, which might still end up being the case. And maybe with Portland, you also give them the new coach bump, right? So.
Well, and as long as and before you came on, we were talking a little bit about the Open Cup, and last night you ended up with T2 playing one of the amateur sides, and it was an intriguing moment that happened in the 53rd minute where Harvey Neville for T2 got a red card, and they were a man down. They would eventually lose to the amateur side that was playing in front of like 50 people at Providence Park last night. What do you anticipate the conversation was at the breakfast table this morning in Portland with the father and son, where the son is like, yeah, Dad, I got a red. What do you anticipate the breakfast table conversation was like between Neville's after what happened last night in the Open Cup
with their over their beans and toast.
Yeah, I mean, whatever they do, whatever they do on a morning, whatever it was, what do you anticipate that the conversation was like at the Neville abode? I won't say household. I don't know if he's got a house or not, but what do you anticipate the conversation was after Open Cup last night?
It's funny. As you were saying that, I'm envisioning like Phil Neville parked outside of Providence Park, like with other parents, like waiting for their kids. Like, you know, he gets in the dad. No. We're not talking. Let's just not talk. We'll talk in the morning.
Yeah, we'll talk. I don't want to tell you. It's like he's got both hands on the steering wheel. He's just got, the radio's playing something nebulous. He's got his hands at not like at 10 and 2. He's just looking straight ahead. Harvey gets in the car, puts his bag either in the back seat of the trunk, slams the door, and then all of a sudden the music just gets cranked and they just head off into the sunset after that particular match.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much how it went.
All right, this weekend we have a schedule du jour when it comes to first off, you got to balance your international windows. This is going to be a test for clubs that don't have a lot of international players. Atlanta United's losing 6. They lost the 7th to injury, and they go to Toronto.
Yeah.
Any of the matchups on Saturday with the surviving clubs that get to test their depth, what is sticking out to you when it comes to the matchups this weekend?
Yeah, let me take a quick look at Saturday's slate. So I would say I think I think Vancouver Salt Lake I like. There's interesting matches. I think LA Sporting is an interesting one as well.
Mm-hmm.
On the East Coast, a little bit interested in the Cincy NYCFC. Does NYCFC that win bolster them? Or do they just go to TQL like most other teams do and not get a result? Colorado, Houston. I think Colorado, starting to get some good results, right? Like that first one, you felt, what was it? They gave up 4 goals on 0.4. What is it? Expected goals, right? Yeah. Like it was.
Yeah.
That's just weird. So, and then not so much for LAFC, Nashville.
Because Gary Smith I got to keep an eye on him. I really do.
Portland, Philly. I don't know. Maybe Portland, Philly brings some of that MLS after dark, like we saw with St. Louis and LA.
Now it makes me wonder: is Harvey on the bench for that one?
Good question. Good question. But I think probably the best matches, if you will, are probably West Coast matches: Sporting, LA, and Vancouver, Salt Lake.
Okay,
I think those are the 2.
All right. So what else is going on in the world of Dylan Butler these days? Varsity Media, MLSsoccer.com.
Yeah. So we it was really cool, dude. Like we did. It's funny. Today, lacrosse season begins in earnest. Okay. So I have a high school game today, but we actually, my first lacrosse reps of the year, we did a college game on Saturday, Rutgers and UMass.
Rutgers.
So it was super cool. Now, one of the things that, and I'm not so sure Maddie would even care about any of this stuff. So
she calls lacrosse.
I call KSU women's lacrosse.
Yeah.
So that's why I jumped in. I was like, yes.
So here's a funny thing, right? Like, doing the game and everything was great. So one of the things that we do with Varsity Media for a lot of these games is we do food reviews, and a lot of times it's like the local. We'll go into whatever town it is, and it's like their local pizza place or their local burrito place, whatever it is. We did a review. This time we had a great idea. My original idea was going to be take the best thing from the Rutgers tailgate, take the best thing from the UMass tailgate, and like let's now like put them to this test. We do the food test, right? We didn't do that, but we did get some of the brisket from the UMass tailgate in a sandwich. It was the goalie's dad who like did it for like 2 or 3 days. It was crazy. But then we got invited to the UMass tailgate after. Dude, legit.
Okay.
I mean, like, name the meat, whatever, they had it, right? Like the brisket, the ribs, your usual burgers and hot dogs, chicken. I mean, it was amazing. Like, they should make that part of their recruiting tool. Like, hey, listen, come to our match, but you're invited to our tailgate after. And then they're like, "What? Is there a tailgate that matches this? I'm not sure." So UMass lost the game, but they won the tailgate.
Okay. All right. So you got lacrosse coming up in earnest and MLSsoccer.com. Do you know what you're going to be assigned yet this weekend?
Yeah, I'm doing a little. I've made the national team cut, so I'm on tomorrow's match, and then the big finale on Sunday. Perhaps the finale, right? They got to get past this first match, the U.S., but we expect them to be in the final.
Yes, they are expected to be in the final. As always, my friend, thanks for coming on Wednesdays to break everything down when it comes to Varsity Media on the YouTubes and all the high school and the college stuff now with the tailgating that you're making us all jealous about late in the morning. As always, my friend, Dylan_Butler on the Twitters, on the 280 character app. We'll catch up with you next week. Busiest man in the Northeast.
All right.
There he goes. He's going to enjoy his Rangers mug now. You see how he wraps up the segment perfectly. He sits there and he shows you the mug one final time, and he takes the sip of the morning beverage, and he's ready to go. So it's always great to catch up with Dylan and get his thoughts on everything in Major League Soccer, because Dylan knows what he's talking about, and he knows better than I do. And so when you bring in folks that are better than I am, the one thing we didn't ask him about was Newcastle, Maddie. So you and Dylan can commiserate on Newcastle and Miguel Almiron and Bruno Guimaraes and profit and sustainability rules and all those kinds of things as we go over the next little while. But no, it's always great to catch up with Dylan, and great to hear what's going on with him. News, gossip, rumor, innuendo. Since we got to talk about what's going on with Newcastle, we'll talk about what's going on with Liverpool. Liverpool, once again, shocking no one. They now have a new dude in charge, Richard Hughes, and no real surprise because it had been mentioned yesterday that Richard Hughes was going to be the new sporting director for Liverpool. Once again, life after Jurgen Klopp, that's what you're staring at. And so Richard Hughes is now the man. He's leaving Bournemouth, which is very interesting because, once again, with Bournemouth has done a very good job of, with the resources that they have, Bill Foley and his ownership group. They got rid of Gary O'Neill last year. They were confident in what they were doing, brought in Andoni Iraola as the head coach, and with the recruitment that's been there, you get to bring in all of the low-priced talent, or the economical talent. I won't say low-priced. The economical talent that's attached to Bournemouth and their spot right now in the Premier League table. You've got a guy like Richard Hughes that can help you out there. Once again, he comes to Fenway Sports Group, and he brought in, this is a guy who recruited folks like David Brooks, Lloyd Kelly, Dominic Solanke, Tyrone Mings early on in his career. So the look is there. And bringing in a guy like Richard Hughes, that's big for Fenway Sports Group, as they are now trying to once again continue to build without Jurgen Klopp, and that is going to be a part of their future there at Liverpool. Juice boxes for Open Cup. I know that this is something that we wanted to get into before Dylan joined us, Just to let you know.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Maddie. Richmond at 6:30 tonight. So -152 with our friends from Christos. Christos is one of the great stories of the Open Cup, continuing to make deep runs and such. And tomorrow, as a bolo, if we end up with individuals, and if we end up with cup sets, let's see if we can track some of these cup setters down and see if we can get them on the show in the morning. And we might have
absolutely
reach out to them through 280 character apps and such. But yeah, if we end up with any major cup sets, let's see if we can get them on the show in the morning. They might be hungover. They might be tired. They might be stuck 7 to a hotel room someplace. They might be in a van heading back home. But Richmond favored tonight against Christos at a -152.
Yeah. This is the one thing I love about the Open Cup. Even Tyler talked about it beforehand too. Like, I love getting to see like these teams that like no one really expects to like come in and like upset an MLS Next Pro team, and then they do it. It's so fun. I love Open Cup. Open Cup is so fun, but it's hard balancing because you have Open Cup going on. Then you also have March Madness starting up very soon.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to have like 5 million different screens up at a time to watch everything that I want to watch. Not to mention, half the Open Cup games start at the same time. What am I supposed to do?
Multiple monitors is what you're supposed to do.
I don't have multiple monitors, John.
I have. I've got. Well, you've got. You got a phone, right?
I do.
That's one. You got a computer, right?
I do.
That's 2. Can you hijack and or borrow temporarily your roommate's computer / computers?
I think I could convince them.
All right, so then that puts you to what?
Math is mathing.
So 3, 4 devices.
That's like 6 or 7.
Okay, so there you go. So you can handle. Because I think 4 was the max that we had going on. I don't think we had any kind of I think we had a 6-pack at one point. I don't think we had the Octo Box like we get to see with our friend Kevin Egan at MLS 360.
The only ones are actually, ironically enough, at 10:30. There's 4 games going on at 10:30 for Open Cup.
Yikes. Okay, so we'll keep an eye on that.
Yeah.
And we got 3 at 10:30. So you got the one at 6:30, the one at 7, Asheville City and 1 Knox. Your friend Mark McKeever is favored on the road at Asheville City at a +136. 7 o'clock, it is South Carolina United Bantams out of USL League 2. They are a large underdog to Greenville Triumph, who are a -125 coming to town. 7:30, Red Bulls, even money, +100, going up against the Hudson Valley Hammers, which sounds like a softball team. Red Bulls 2 are favored at Montclair, no surprise. Fire 2 favored against Chicago City at a -112. Then Ballard and Spokane. Ballard at home, and Ballard, your USL League 2 champs, at a +146. Spokane Velocity coming off of that big win in USL League 1. So this is USL League 2 versus League 1 in Ballard, against Ballard. Ballard, the home team, playing on the campus of UW. Capo out of Nisa, large underdog to Des Moines Menace at a -294, and then LA Force out of Nisa, big favorite, hosting Redlands FC at a -185. So if any of the East Coasties end up with any kind of activity, then we'll try and track down some. We'll try and track down some cup setters and try to get some winners coming up in short order. So that's your rundown for Open Cup. It looks like our friends at IFAB, the fabulous folks at IFAB.
Yep.
They might be kicking the tires on a new interpretation of the offside rule. Our friends at IFAB might be checking something out, and it appears that they have approved new tests for another type of offside. A player would only be offside if his entire body is ahead of the last defender. So if you have the blending of individuals, if the defender is like maybe a half step behind the attacker, then that would be considered onside, where if the player is like a full stride away, then it would be offside. So basically, if any part of the attacker is still meshed with the defender, that would be onside. They are approving these new tests. If the defender is fully, if the attacker is still a full step ahead, then that would be offside in the new breakdown of how it might be as IFAB wants to continue to test things. So we'll keep an eye on that one, instead of it being if a part of you is offside, you're offside. Now is if a part of you is onside, then you're onside. So basically it would be the reverse of what we're used to seeing when it comes to onside offside. So that's where we are. So we got that new rule to possibly being stared at by IFAB, and now when Bart comes on, we'll try and ask Bart, what do you think about the new idea? So we'll find out what Bart thinks about the new idea of perhaps things changing when it comes to the offside rule. Antitrust. I don't think we necessarily have any stupidity down here today, at least in the morning, at least with the early morning perusal of things. But we do have to do some legal stuff.
Ooh, legal stuff.
Yeah, legal stuff. I mean, it's not quite like, the legal stuff yesterday and going into the deep dive about what's going on involving, players and such. But it appears that the U.S. government was, they were, and I want to find the story to make sure that I've got the wording correct. When it came to the antitrust case involving FIFA and the U.S. Soccer Federation, that ended up making news yesterday. So it'd be nice if, I don't know, if there was like news, if there was a news thing that I could sit here and click and go, yeah, I'd like to look at the headlines, please. And, so this is what happens when you don't have your tabs open and you're trying to sit here and spell antitrust case with the USSF and FIFA. Came up yesterday, and and it has to do with the relevant sports versus a U.S. Soccer Federation case. So the Biden administration sided with the promoter who filed an antitrust suit against FIFA and the U.S. Soccer Federation over the world governing body's policy against hosting league matches from other countries, urging the Supreme Court to allow the case to proceed to trial. Brief was filed last week by Solicitor General Elizabeth Preligar. Government says the Supreme Court should not review the case and should allow a 2023 U.S. Second Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals decision to stand. The government wrote that the U.S. Soccer Federation, quote, did not act independently. Rather, it participated in a membership association that adopted a policy binding the association's members, invoking that policy as its stated rationale for denying approval of the proposed matches. The government added the Soccer Federation was not a randomly selected FIFA member, nor was it passive or an unknowing bystander to the adoption and enforcement of the 2018 policy. Relevant Sports, controlled by Miami Dolphins owner Stephen Ross, announced back in 2018 that they wanted to have Barca and Girona play at Hard Rock in January 2019. In October of 2018, FIFA said the ruling council adopted a policy that emphasized the sporting principle that official league matches must be played within the territory of respective member association. So basically, FIFA is saying that Barca is like, we want to play a match outside of our country that counts in the league. And FIFA's like, no, bro, that's not going to happen. So FIFA said they emphasized the sporting principle that it had to happen. Then Barcelona withdrew their commitment to play in the state of Florida. Relevant in 2019 was also refused permission by the U.S. Soccer Federation to sanction a league match between two teams from Ecuador. Relevant sued, claiming violation of the Sherman Antitrust Act and tortious interference. That's them's big words. Tortious interference. So you got that. Then the U.S. District Judge in July of 2021 granted the Soccer Federation motion to dismiss the antitrust claim. The Second U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals reinstated the antitrust claim in March of 23 in a unanimous decision, 3-0 with the judges. Then the Soccer Federation asked the Supreme Court in August to take the case, and the court in November invited the government to file a brief stating their opinion. FIFA filed a new motion to dismiss with the trial court in December, claiming the Soccer Federation is not its U.S. agent and the court has no jurisdiction over FIFA. The Soccer Federation filed a motion to dismiss, arguing the claims were barred by a 2016 settlement agreement between the Soccer Federation and Relevant. No one answered any requests to comment. So you got folks who are sitting there and saying yes, no, government this, yet government says no, and folks are less than pleased about what's going on. So obviously, Relevant wanted to bring stuff over here to this part of the country, this part of the world. They were turned down, and so it's going to continue to remain in the courts. So there you go. So that's the fun part with that. What was the other stuff? I guess we can't go a day without talking about Everton and what is going on with Everton. So let's talk about Everton for a minute.
Oh, no.
Yep, more with Everton. And it is from, once again, our friends at Yosemar Football, and they have done some incredible journalistic work when it comes to this particular case. And the folks that want to buy Everton, our friends at 777 Partners. So 777 waits on an answer. There was the thought that it was going to be happening this week, that you were going to get your answer as to whether or not 777 Partners could, in fact, buy Everton. Yosemar has come up with yet another element to this story. Once again, Paul Brown and Philippe Auclair. Legal papers have been filed in the state of Florida that reveal a Russian oligarch is seeking a restraining order against 777 in a case referencing the club. Last week, once again, our friends at Yosemar, they said they broke down how 777 was funded by a loan. Their first attempt at buying a club was funded by a loan from a Russian oligarch via that Russian oligarch's company. And we know how folks these days, especially in this particular country/continent, don't take too kindly to Russian oligarchs. That loan is now the subject of a legal dispute between the two parties, basically 777 and this Russian oligarch. Less than a week ago, the company that funded that particular loan of the Russian oligarch's company, or one of, filed a lawsuit in Miami which seeks emergency injunctive relief and a restraining order to preclude any sale or transfer of assets held by either 777 or by the guy in charge of 777 himself, Josh Wander, including real estate assets in Florida, where both folks are based. In incendiary language, actually, 777 Partners filed a strongly worded legal response before the same court, moving to strike the petition as a sham pleading intending to threaten 777 Partners with negative media coverage at a delicate stage in their pending acquisition of Everton, etc. 777 Partners' motion to strike describes the legal action as a transparent publicity stunt, and after stressing several times its persistent claim to have $10 billion of assets under management, it adds that if the court were to fail to strike the Russian oligarch's business's petition and instead grant them an injunction, it should require them to, quote, to post a $10 billion bond to protect the defendants when it's later adjudicated that an injunction was improper. On that date, August 28th of 2020, the business that is a Cyprus subsidiary, so that shows you where the countries are that have to, that like these kinds of businesses. The financial group owned by the Russian oligarch that was doing business in Cyprus loaned 777 Partners subsidiary, a subsidiary, €8.5 million to facilitate the purchase of just under 10% of Sevilla. The August 2021 maturity date for the loan was later extended. The business of the Russian oligarch alleges in the lawsuit that 777 Partners has repeatedly ignored requests to pay off the loan, with the outstanding amount now due calculated at over €9 million once interest is taken into account. The Russian oligarch's business entered into arbitration late January, though it's claimed no arbiter has yet been appointed to hear the dispute. In addition, the Russian oligarch's business claims that the guy in charge of 777, who they describe as a convicted felon who pleaded no contest to cocaine trafficking in February 2004, that's in the filing, and 777 Partners themselves have acted in bad faith, deceitful manner with no intention of repaying the significant debt due, and that following investigations into their activities, quote, there is a very strong likelihood the defendants are merely stringing things along to render any judgment against them uncollectible. So you've got that going on with 777. Remember, 777 is currently defending 9 separate debt recovery lawsuits, according to Yosemite Football. Inquiries by the Bermuda Monetary Authority and the Utah Insurance Department into the activities of another 777 subsidiary, their Bermuda-based reinsurance arm and risk solution provider, are continuing. When Bermuda and Utah are trying to investigate something together, that's interesting, bedfellows. These are the folks that are investigating right now subsidiaries and spinoffs and all this kind of stuff involving the folks that want to buy Everton. So that's where that is right now. Let's see. Dani Alves is granted a €1 million bail after his conviction. So we'll keep an eye on that story as we go. Thank you, Abby, for sending me the link, by the way. Morning Forecard, morning, Abby. Cloud Wreck, good morning. I think it's been a while since Cloud Wreck has been with us. Regardless of age, Olivier Giroud still seems to have enough talent to hold his own at AC Milan. That is true.
Oh, well, breaking news, actually.
What?
Major League Soccer and MLS Next today announced the broadcast schedule for the 2024 Generation Adidas Cup, which will have 28 matches streamed live exclusively on MLS Season Pass on Apple TV, and that is from MLS Communications.
Cool. All right. So now we know what's going on with the GA Cup, and definitely keep an eye on that with Atlanta United, because we know that Atlanta United, when it comes to any kind of tournament and the people that Atlanta United have on their roster that are quite young, they go and win a lot of stuff. So we'll definitely keep that in mind. Gossip, rumor, and innuendo before we go, because remember, tonight we got the doubleheader in Villa Rica, Midtown in Villa Rica, and we'll keep an eye on that. I think it's 5:30, 7:30. I don't think it's 6 and 8. But
last I checked, it was 6 and 8. But
then it's 6 and 8. Well, then okay, so 6 and 8 then on the network. So 6 and 8, girls at 6, boys at 8. And it'll be all of us there, and Drew Dickinson is also going to be there with his outfit. So it'll be a full press box with a lot of folks broadcasting the matches. You can catch up with our versions at soccerdownhere.mixler.com. A little before 6 and a little before 8 for the boys and the girls. Midtown Villa Rica, big region matchup out there in Villa Rica, and it'll be fun to catch up with our friends out there. Very, very cool environment. Great press box, great facility. And it'll be great to catch up with the Wildcats as they take on the Knights of Midtown tonight. And match on Friday. Jason's out of town, so it'll be me and Maddie on the 1s and 2s. And then on Sunday, Carolina Core at Atlanta United 2, pregame 2:30, kickoff 3:03, and then full post-match after. And you've got an interview coming up in short order, don't you?
I do, actually. I have an interview with the head coach for Carolina Core in Roy Lassiter. Mm-hmm. That will be coming up. I'm interviewing him at around 2:30 2:30, 2:40, and then that'll be a quick turnaround. That'll be on the network as soon as we're done with the interview. And if you guys don't get the chance to watch the full of it, you'll get to hear it also on our morning show as well.
On the morning show and then on the pregame show on the weekend. So you'll get a lot of Roy Lassiter tomorrow and in the coming days when it comes to Carolina Core getting ready for Atlanta United too. Gossip, rumor, and innuendo. Manchester United's co-owner Sir Jim Ratcliffe has made Gareth Southgate his top choice to replace Erik ten Hag in the summer. Would like a decision from him sooner rather than later. That's from one of the 4-letter papers. Take the information at your own peril. Manchester City might let Jack Grealish leave this summer as they look to raise funds to enhance their squad. Grealish has also been very injured recently, hasn't been 100%, and they might be able to spin Grealish off to another suitor. Newcastle and Alexander Isak. Isak is on Arsenal's short list. Gunners aiming to bring in a forward in the summer. Arsenal also in discussions with Sporting Lisbon striker Victor Gyökeres. Spurs, Chelsea, West Ham all have expressed an interest in signing Ivan Toney. 3-letter paper, no surprise, Ivan Toney's on the market. Timo Werner wants Spurs to activate the option to sign him permanently this summer for €17 million from RB Leipzig. That's from Florian Plettenberg at Sky Germany. Christian Eriksen has told Manchester United's Erik ten Hag unhappy with his lack of game time. Former Chelsea recruitment chief Scott McLaughlin is a target for Newcastle to replace Dan Ashworth, who's heading to Manchester United. Rangers willing to accept £15 million for Jack Butland, interest growing in the Premier League. Everton, Forest, and West Ham are keeping tabs on Karamoko Dembele, who's impressed this season after joining Blackpool on loan from Brest. An appeal by Nottingham Forest against their deduction could risk the punishment being increased. That's from the Times. Forest also face having to sell one of their star players by the end of June to avoid another points deduction for breaching PSR again. Morgan Gibbs-White is the name that keeps popping up. Johan Bakayoko, attracting interest from Chelsea, Liverpool, Manchester City, PSG, with PSV Eindhoven wanting €50 to €60 million. And Erling Haaland has given his club a scare by limping out of training while on international duty with Norway. There are pictures. That is gossip, rumor, and innuendo. What to watch and where to watch it. You got Open Cup, and that's at the ussoccer.com. You can watch all of the matchups there. And there are some enterprising folks that have been posting the individual YouTube links on the 280-character app. And so this is what I was discussing with Maddie about multiple devices, trying to sit there and say, well, how many can you watch? How many devices can you come up with? Probably 4, I think, early, and then it would have to be 3 late. So you won't have to dial up all 6. International friendly, 345. Keep this one in mind if you're interested in streaks. San Marino and St. Kitts and Nevis. These two international sides are going to be playing 2 matches in short order. San Marino, a lot of folks are looking at the matchup with San Marino and St. Kitts and Nevis today as the possible ending of an international losing streak for San Marino. That's at 345 on FS2. Women's Champions League quarters on DAZN USA. And we mentioned what's going on. MLSsoccer.com has 3 Open Cup matches. Paramount Plus has the Copa de la Liga at 6 and 8:15. USLsoccer.com has 12 matchups tonight. 4 in the 6:30 to 7 window, 7:30 with Red Bulls 2. 8 o'clock, you have the matchups in the Chicago area, and then the 5 late. So you're going to need 5 devices late for 10 o'clock and beyond. And USsoccer.com, once again, same deal. 3, 6, 9, 12 matchups tonight. 5 of them are late, and that is what you are watching. Once again, 6 and 8 tonight. SoccerDownHere.Mixler.com is where Maddie and I will be doing the matches, and you'll get all the fun cameos and stuff like that. And like I said, we got match on Friday. Carolina Core comes to the twos, comes to the fraction to take them on a next pro. 3 o'clock on Sunday afternoon, 2:30 pregame, match at 3:03, and full post game after that. Maddie, last thoughts before we go.
Make sure you guys have notifications set for the high school matches tonight. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yep.
And keep an eye out for my interview with Roy Lassiter. And everyone have a good day.
There. So since it's the end of the show, mucha platiel, play it safe. We'll see you a little before 6 o'clock tonight. We'll hear you before 6 o'clock tonight. SoccerDownHere.Mixlr.com. That's our live platform. High school matches of the week. It is the midweek mashup with Midtown and Villarica. We'll see you there. You'll hear us there. We'll be there. We'll see each other there. You'll hear us there, and we'll be back at it again later today. For Maddie, for Dylan, for Tyler, for Jarrett and Nick, who aren't here, for Jason, who's coming on tomorrow, for a lot of folks, thanks for hanging out with us for another go-round of soccer down here, back in a little under 22 hours. And since it is the end of the show, that means I get to do this. We'll be at Villarica tonight, 6 o'clock. Be good. See you then.